Hey friends, we're trying something new today here where I'll feel more like a newscaster, kind of. I assume, I don't know how they feel, but this little infographic thing over here, I'm going to be constantly pretending that I see it, but I'm going to be putting it there after I record this video. But we need it today because we're going to go through numbers, but fun numbers, because we're talking today about how we burn calories. And it's all really good news. The whole goal of this channel is just to become healthier, happier, more joyful people, the kind of guy who waves at dogs or who smiles in traffic, which, by the way, they have a real stock photo of that. But imagine how happy you have to be to smile like this guy in traffic. That's the goal of all of this stuff that we're doing with health. It's not just to go through numbers and talk about what you can't eat, because there's a truly wonderful reward on the other side of this, and honestly, even through the journey. But that's why today's topic matters so much, because we're talking about how we burn calories. We've talked some about the calories that we consume, the foods that we eat. But the reason this matters is because one of the biggest misconceptions in fitness in general is that exercise equals calorie burn, which is just not true. It's like to say that roller coasters equal fun. You can have a lot of fun on a roller coaster, but the majority of the fun you have in your life is going to be outside of roller coasters. Or it'd be like saying that learning and school are the same thing. You can learn things in school, and that's good. And sometimes, even if there's specific stuff that you need to learn, you might have to go to a specific school for that, kind of like exercise, actually. But the majority of the learning that you do in life happens after you're in school. The reason that calorie burn equals exercise is such a bad misconception, that it has such big consequences, is because it usually leads us to one of two places. The first one is that we just exercise way too hard. We decide to get fit and we go running like maniacs, or we do really high intensity interval training, stuff that our bodies just aren't quite ready for yet. And we end up like Chandler did in that one episode where he started working out with Monica.
Ow, 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 ow. Ow, 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 ow.
The reason that that causes problems is because that's not sustainable. Every now and then, about 5% of the time, if you look at statistics, someone will continue to work through the months and months of soreness and stay on track and continue on with a lifetime of being more fit and healthy. But the rest of the time, the other 95% of the time, is just too hard to maintain that. It's no way to live your life to feel like you can't lift a coffee cup up to your mouth, and so we give up. The other option is that we just leave exercise to the gym rats. I've been there many times where you just say, I really don't want to work out, I don't want to be sore, and so you just leave it to the people that have headbands and the big headphones, and they love being in the gym, the Jillian Michaels of the world. And that leads to just leaving fitness and better health in general by the wayside, because there's something about eating correctly and not exercising that just doesn't feel right. It feels like you should be doing both things. They get tossed together as these 50-50 partners, diet and exercise. But the truth is, 90% of getting more healthy and more fit is diet. 10% is exercise, and there's stuff that you can achieve with exercise that you can't do with diet alone. But 90% of what we can do for our health and fitness is just in what we eat. Now, you might be thinking, this guy is an idiot. But that's why we're going to go through the specific numbers. So, to prove my point, here's a chart with a bunch of letters. Thank you. Now, we're going to go through and talk about what each of these things mean. So, first things first, TDEE is the total daily energy expenditure. This is the amount of calories that you burn in a day on average. Generally, what you'll do is you'll take how many calories somebody's burned over the course of a week and then divide it by 7, because there is some fluctuation day to day for different people. But the total daily energy expenditure is all of the calories that you've burned doing every single thing for the entire day. If we're talking about calories in, calories out equals total daily energy expenditure. Next up is how those are broken down. So first off is the resting energy expenditure. And just at a glance, you'll see that makes up the majority of what we're talking about here. And then the other one is the non-resting energy expenditure. The difference between these two things is pretty simple. Non-resting energy expenditure is stuff that you would do outside of being in bed. Resting energy expenditure is just calories that you would burn even if you never got out of bed for that whole 24-hour period. You will see here that resting energy expenditure is synonymous with basal metabolic rate. Basal metabolic rate is the energy that you use just to keep the lights on. That's your brain functioning, that's your heart beating, that's your blood circulating. All of the stuff that your body has to do to keep you alive requires the majority of the calories that you take in each day. This is true even for people who exercise very, very intensely. Basal metabolic rate makes up so much of the calories that you consume and burn because it's a lot of work to stay alive. There's so much for your body to do. Mitochondria require a lot of work. Remember those, they're the powerhouse of the cell. And that power has to come from somewhere, and it comes from the calories that you consume. Next up is NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So thermo means heat, genesis means the creation of it. So thermogenesis is the creation of heat. Non-exercise activity is all of the stuff that you do that isn't I'm going to the gym to work out. It's not I'm going for a run or a jog or I'm lifting weights. It is I walked to the bathroom. I am talking with my hands. The stuff that I'm doing right now while I go like this, all of that stuff is non-exercise activity. And you'll see it makes up a decent amount of the calories that we burn each day. But if you think about it, that makes sense. There's a lot of walking around. There's a lot of just stuff where you're taking groceries out of the car. Even stuff like typing on the computer. Does it burn 1,000,000 calories? No, but it is NEAT. It is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Next up is the thermic effect of food. Basically, it takes energy to make energy. The food that we take in, we have to use some energy to break it down and turn it into usable energy. When people talk about protein being such a helpful tool when we're trying to lose weight, this is part of why the thermic effect of food, the energy it takes to turn protein into energy, is higher than the amount of energy it takes to turn carbohydrates or fat into energy. But either way, the thermic effect of food is not negligible. 15% of the total calories that you burn in a day are used just to consume the calories and turn them into usable energy. And then lastly, what you'll see there at the very, very top is the exercise activity thermogenesis. That little 10% there at the top. That would be the calories that you burn in exercise. That's going for a jog, that's going for a walk, that's going to lift weights, all of those different things that you would say, all right, I'm going to go put on my workout suit and go do the thing. Here's why all of this matters. If you look at this chart, you will see so much of it is just used in living and doing the normal stuff that it takes to be a human being. 90% of it. Now, can you burn more calories by doing more exercise? You can. Could you push that from 10 to say 15%? Yes, you can. But the majority of the calories that you're burning are burned just because you're alive and you're living a normal life. And that's why the diet component of what we do matters so much more than the exercise component. To put this another way, I tried my hand at an illustration, which is not good, by the way, and I'm sorry for that, but hopefully the analogy holds and makes it make a little bit more sense. This is an ox. An ox weighs anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 pounds. Interestingly enough, it can pull about the same amount of weight. This is a man. We'll say he's a farmer helping his ox out. He might weigh 150 to 200 pounds. In this analogy, the ox represents all of the calories that we burn just in normal living, and the man represents the calories that we burn with exercise. Now, let's hitch them to a wagon that we'll call food. And we're trying to get this wagon up a hill. Zooming in here, let's get this relabeled for what we're really talking about. We can start with the ox and the man. So those two, and only those two, are all the calories we can burn in a day. The ox is equivalent to the calories we burn just by living our normal lives. It's got 10 times the pulling power of the man. And the man represents the extra calories we can burn with exercise. Now he can pull just a fraction of what the ox does. No pioneers were hitching their wagon to their shoulders and pulling their family down the Oregon Trail. And speaking of the wagon, it represents the total load of calories we eat in a day. That's our total calories in. If our pulling power up the hill is greater than the weight in that wagon, then we can move it up the hill. In this analogy, that means our calories out is greater than our calories in, and we will lose weight. In fact, it's medically impossible to gain weight if the number of calories you're burning is greater than the number of calories you're eating. But for most of us, that wagon, it's stuck. It's not moving forward. A lot of time it's moving backwards towards weight gain. But here's what I'm trying to illustrate with all of this wagon pulling. The amount the ox can pull is pretty much a set number. Like, it is what it is. That's how it is for our metabolism and the calories we burn just by living. And the man just isn't going to make up ground we're losing if the wagon is too heavy. Even if he's amazing, if he's the king of farmers, he might add another 15% to what the ox does just by being an ox. The ox is that much stronger. The only variable here that's going to matter for the wagon moving, or in this case for long-term sustainable weight loss, is how heavy the wagon is. It's how much food we eat in a day. So am I just saying eat less? Give the wagon less drag by having more willpower? No, because here's what this picture should look like for most Americans. Our energy partitioning and hunger hormones are so out of whack that eat less just kind of feels like patronizing and pretty useless advice. The wagon's upside down. Sugar and processed food and poor sleep, constant stress, they're all toppling over the wagon we're dragging. And that's why we've got to get that stuff right. Get our energy partitioning and metabolic flexibility and hunger hormones and all that on track so that we can get our desire for food to match up with our need for food. It's hopeless to just try and eat less until we fix those problems. But they're fixable problems. Because the natural homeostasis of the body wants to consume the right number of calories for the amount of energy that we have to put out. The reason that we don't do that is because there's all these other factors like processed food or decreased sleep or increased stress that make us hungrier than we need to be. And that's why it's such a helpful place to place our attention first. So we're going to be talking more about how to do that as time goes on. Also, if you want to subscribe to this channel, feel free to join the legions of people who are subscribed. Feel free to join my parents who have subscribed, and we'll learn more about all this stuff. Have a great day.